And we're back, Sports Next Door. Myself, Max, with me, Owen. We're 15-ish picks through the NBA draft. Some expectations met, some overturned. Here to run quickly through what's happened so far and maybe even a little more that happens as we speak. But starting off, surprising no one with the number one pick, the Pistons go with Cade Cunningham, Owen.
Absolutely. I love this pick. Um, we knew 8 hours ago from Woj that this was going to be the pick, but nonetheless, the Pistons have their guy of the future, a cornerstone piece. He is so versatile. He fits in everywhere with this team. He's already been talked about over and over again, so there's not much more I can add at this point, but consensus number one, and they didn't overthink it. They went with the guy who they know is going to be a great player. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. I loved Malika was trying to make Motorcade the name. I think that actually works. Motor City, Cade Cunningham, not bad, not bad. And a great moment in his interview where he had to put on the sunglasses and then he goes, "Which camera am I looking at?" Proceeds to look at the wrong camera and go, "Detroit, we out here, we coming, I'm ready." Thought that was a funny moment. So shout out to Cade. Congrats on being the number one pick. Kendrick Perkins called him the most complete player in a draft coming out of a draft since LeBron James, which is obviously you love to use superlatives in the NBA draft. They comp people to NBA superstars all the time, but the expectations are high for this one.
Yeah, and an advantage maybe for a Pistons team that really has strengths nowhere is you do just look for the best value player and you don't worry about them overshadowing anyone already on the roster. Maybe some of that consideration going in for Houston at number two, already having Christian Wood, a big, helping make the decision a little easier. They go with Jalen Green over Evan Mobley.
Yeah. And we saw this coming a little bit. People had expected Mobley initially, and for good reason. Like we've talked about many times, Mobley, like on paper, should be probably the number one pick. But teams in the modern NBA are looking for something a little bit different. And Houston decided to go with a guy who can just absolutely shoot the lights out. He's got the potential to be that number one scorer, like a Kobe, like a Devin Booker, like a I don't know who else you want to throw in there. Like the Dame's top scorers, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, stuff like that. He has the potential to be that level scorer.
Like a
And
James
so you
Harden.
go with the ceiling and you go with a guy that fits with Christian Wood a little bit better. And I can't say too much about this pick as well. It's solid. Like and they saw a lot of what he did with the G League Ignite, which may transfer over to the NBA more so than college. So Houston fans got to be happy with that pick.
Unlike that pick, then that puts the Cavs in a bit of a bind where they already have Jared Allen. But Mobley, as you said, could be a number one overall pick. They can't ignore that value and go with it, leaving their roster a little big. They had a lot of time to consider moving down in the draft. I'm sure they received a lot of offers, plenty that we heard about. I'm sure even more that we didn't. But at the end of the day, Mobley's their guy.
That's a really actually interesting piece that we've seen from this draft. No trades in this draft at all after so many mocks had Orlando moving, Cleveland moving, uh, Memphis moving up, OKC maybe packaging things together. But in the end, everyone stands pat. And I actually love this pick for the Cavaliers. I think with the size Mobley has right now, obviously he's going to put a ton of weight on and just be this absolute unit when he's a couple years down the road in the NBA. But for now, he's got a slight frame. He's still young, and you could probably run him at the four because he does have a decent outside shot and perimeter skills game that actually the front court of a Mobley Allen could, I think, actually fit. And then you've got so much length and defense to make up for your smaller guards. And then Okoro, Mobley, Allen is a formidable front court that I think actually could be really, really fun. So I actually think this could fit. And again, you take the value in the end, it gives you the flexibility of being able to move Allen or if he leaves in restricted free agency. But for Cleveland, this is a pick that works out with fit. And if Allen moves, then he could be your starting five.
The first big surprise of the night coming from our Toronto Raptors, it seemed everyone from myself to the broadcasters saying in their words, and with the number 4 pick, the Raptors go with Jalen Suggs, and those were not the words out of Adam Silver's mouth. This is something you predicted, or at least noted was on the table. The Raptors go with Scotty Barnes.
Yeah. The moment it was shocking. And for me, I was really, really high on Jalen Suggs, especially with a lot of talk of him not having played basketball full time. And he had the vibes of a guy that felt like a Halliburton, where he's just a great, solid pick, but teams passed on him because they wanted to go higher upside. And he ended up being third in Rookie of the Year voting and was really, really solid. Suggs had a similar feel where he's going to be good right away. And the ceiling is great. And it seems like a guy who holds a grudge and wants to beat every team that passes on him. So in that moment, it was a bit of an oh no. But then you get to thinking, Scotty Barnes, despite his major limitations, the fact that right now you could compare him to a Ben Simmons, and even like the stats aren't the same. He's probably a lower level Ben Simmons coming out of college, which would worry you as a fan. But then you think about the intangibles. Firstly, that he is everyone's favorite guy. He is a culture changer. He brings in, everyone gets along with him. He works incredibly hard, which is something you could not say about Ben Simmons coming out of college. We already knew that he was taking days off at LSU, and Scotty doesn't do that. He's going to come here and he's going to work hard, and that fits right in with the Raptors culture. And then the amount of defense they have now is kind of stupid with OG, with Scotty Barnes, with Siakam. The wings are interchangeable. Like, no one should be getting paint penetration at all with these guys on the perimeter. It's really, really exciting in that regard. It also makes Siakam a little bit more expendable. And I was actually surprised when we got to the Golden State picks that we didn't see him on the move. I thought that could have been in play. We have yet to see it now. But for the Raptors fans out there, you got to get over this really quick if you were high on Suggs, because Barnes is coming and he's not going to want to see on Twitter all of the negative energy. So let's support this kid, because I think he's got tremendous upside on both sides of the floor. And he just seems like a great kid as well. So I'm really looking forward to having him in Toronto.
And I'll add, all of a sudden, thinking about Kyle Lowry's future, the Lakers have now acquired a point guard in Russell Westbrook. If I'm Kyle Lowry, I want to get nowhere near the Philadelphia 76ers right now with the Ben Simmons situation, as we've talked about earlier. That really just leaves the Miami Heat as a potential spot to go. And I think the Raptors send a message by having a guard and a forward to pick between, and picking the forward. Who knows? But I think it was hard to imagine a starting Raptors roster that had Lowry, Van Fleet, Suggs, Trent Jr. Oh boy. And excuse me, I'm forgetting who our last year's first round pickup was.
Malachi.
That couldn't have been our starting backcourt, but I've rambled this point enough. What just lit your face up?
So with the 16th pick, we're skipping, but live right now, OKC taking Alperen Sengun from Turkish League. This was a guy that many have comped to kind of a Domantas Sabonis. He's 18 years old. He won the Turkish League MVP. He's incredibly skilled, high IQ. He dominates on both sides of the floor in probably the third best professional league in the world. The kid has so much upside, and analytical experts love him. And now OKC, with the most wild team right now put together, counting their earlier pick of Josh Giddy, who I guess we'll get to next, because Suggs, like, Orlando was just more than happy to have him fall into their lap. It's a great fit. Good pick, solid all the way around. But Josh Giddy, really shocking, folks. I said that he had a chance to rise up boards, especially when Memphis made that trade with New Orleans to go up to 10. But he goes all the way up to 6 at 6'8". He's big, he's tall, he sees over players, great playmaker. I was watching a lot of his Australian highlights the last couple of weeks. He looks really solid. And then the big stories coming out of camp for him was he was going toe to toe with all of the vets on the Australian Olympic team and holding his own. He was working Matisse Thybulle in practices, which is really impressive because Thybulle is probably one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. And Joe Ingles has been a mentor to him. So now you have Giddy, Shea, Lou Dort, Pokashevsky, and Sengun, a really wacky, analytically driven starting five. That is going to be so much fun. That's already my NBA League Pass team of choice for this upcoming season. Sengun, a bit of a throwback to the old ages of bigs, but I think he has the skills to be able to step it outside as well. So I'm really excited to see what this kind of freaky team is going to mash together and bring. And if you're OKC, right, you can just continue to take swing after swing. And now the shortest guy in their starting five is Lou Dort, and he's a defensive stalwart. So really, really fun kind of lineup we've got from them.
Yeah, is that an international starting five, or there's one player I'm blanking out on there that you just said, but I know the other four would.
Shea and Lou are Canadian, and then
Yeah.
Giddy from Australia, and then
Yeah.
Pokashevsky
Yeah.
from wherever, and then Sengun from Turkey. So yeah, really fun international starting five, but also just so much length and talent and two-way ability there that I really love.
Yeah, I love that strategy from OKC of you have all these first round draft picks. Well, just keep looking for that slight diamond in the rough. And if you keep swinging on it, like eventually one of these is going out of the park.
More surprises, honestly, in this top 10. We moved to 7. Golden State taking a big swing of their own. They go with Jonathan Kuminga, who basically 2 games through the G League bubble. Some people had him going number 1 just simply because of the frame and the unbelievable physical ability that this kid has. You worry about the intangibles, you worry a little bit about the feel for the game, and he was really inefficient in the end in the G League bubble. But he's a guy that essentially does everything you want out of what you want Andrew Wiggins to do on the defensive end, but he's bigger and quicker. So he's kind of your lockup guy you can put beside Draymond, Steph, Clay, whoever. You have so much shooting just between those two guys. And then he's got the upside to be able to connect him and Wiseman on a similar timeline so that when this core run with Golden State eventually runs out, you can roll right into those two guys. I like the swing here. The bet that Golden State is taking is that their culture and their professionalism and maturity with their top guys is going to trickle down to Kuminga because he has those off-court worries that he can really grow underneath them and evolve. Like, Draymond's going to immediately take him under his wing. And so it's a good upside pick for the Warriors, especially knowing what they then did at 14, taking Moses Moody, who's a little bit more of an established product. Again, a great two-way guard. He can shoot it. It's a bit more of a win now pick. So I like them taking a swing and then also going solid with Moody, who was a guy they actually thought about taking at 7. So they were delighted to have him drop to 14, according to Adrian Wojnarowski.
I'd also heard from that same source they were looking for a trade up until the last minute with that 7th pick. So having those players now instead of the picks, I don't know how that affects the value that they had. I don't think we discussed. I remember reading a headline around a week ago that Clay, Curry, and Draymond spoke to management and request a win now trade move with their future value assets.
It's definitely still on the table for anything that's out there, but for now, I actually don't mind the picks that get made. I think with Kuminga, the upside's there, that he's still a valuable asset that you could package with Wiseman and maybe another pick down the road to make a win now move.
All right, that takes us to pick number 8. I've got absolutely nothing to say, so tell me about Franz Wagner.
Yeah, again, the younger brother of Mo Wagner. They're now both going to be in Orlando together, which is pretty cool. And Franz gets to brag about his spot in the draft much higher than his brother, who got taken 25th. Orlando, low-key a huge winner of this draft, getting Suggs at 5 without having to move down, and then getting Wagner at 8. 2 really smart, high IQ basketball players. Again, Wagner is a guy who plays really, really solid defense as a baseline, which is what we know Orlando loves. but then he can be a guy that stretches the floor, makes the right plays off the catch, even can run a little bit of pick and roll. So I think it's a great fit in there with a lot of their athletic scoring and then athletic defending guys with Cole Anthony, Chumo Kiki, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, stuff like that. I think the 2 picks they got here really are going to start to generate offense for them while still being defensively reliable. And this Orlando team just accelerated their timeline a whole lot more quickly with those 2 picks. I love them. And Sacramento and Memphis at 9 and 10, I'm sure we're not happy to see him go.
But they made do.
Yep. Sacramento taking Davion Mitchell at 9. He fell a little bit more than some people were expecting. Actually, a couple of those high scoring shorter guards fell a little bit more than we were expecting. But nonetheless, a great pick for Sacramento. Defensively driven, you would think. Davion Mitchell, a guy who was constantly picking up the other team's best guard. I loved in the draft. It came up, his nickname from his teammates was Off Night, because that's what he always made the other team's best player have. He's committed to the defensive end, and great highlights of him absolutely stuffing up Cade in some one-on-one action in their game against Oklahoma State. So it's a great pick to fit him with De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, who are a little bit more offensively driven guards. And Davion also can step outside and hit down an open shot. So I like the fit there with Sacramento. And then with the Memphis, obviously this is a New Orleans pick, but it's being made by Memphis in that trade they made earlier this week. They go and get Zaire Williams, who is also a little bit off the board and earlier than many people thought. But again, this was a top 5 talent coming out of high school into the college. And so you believe with his size, his frame, his shooting ability, even though he had an off year at Stanford, which is typically a weaker school, and he had a bit of a tougher year, but with better teammates, with better spacing in the NBA, his frame, his talent is going to take over, and he's going to fit in really nicely with this Memphis team beside Dylan Brooks. They finally have a wing that has a huge upside. Obviously, Kyle Anderson's really solid, but to move forward, Zaire Williams could be a great kind of Mikal Bridges type piece that they could have moving forward, and it fits in really well with their team and their timeline.
All right, Penny's racing soon, so let's race through this.
All right, sounds good. We've got Book Knight, who rose in a lot of mock drafts and then fell tonight. I'm sure Charlotte's happy to grab him, a great shooter to put beside LaMelo and just really space the floor for that Charlotte team. And then we had 2 Canadians going back to back at 12 and 13. Josh Primo, the youngest player in the draft, way off the board, but San Antonio obviously really loved him in their workouts. And then Chris Duarte, the oldest player in the draft, then going right after Primo, going to Indiana, who I guess Indiana thinks they're closer to winning than a lot of us think they are, because Duarte was a pick that a lot of contenders were looking at because he can come in and play now on both sides of the floor. Again, great shooter and a great defender, but happy Canadian basketball, right? That's 2 guys, maybe 4 years from now in Paris could round out a nice looking Olympic roster. 15, we saw coming in just a little bit earlier, Corey Kispert to the Washington Wizards. And straight up here, he's kind of like your JJ Redick, your Kyle Korver, but he can do even a little bit more than that with some of the stuff he does. He runs around screens, but he can create a little bit off of actions, off of screens. And I think that's a really solid pick there at 15. So not much more you can say about Corey Kispert. And really, like, we're continuing to follow the picks as they come in, but the top 15, I think the biggest surprise of this entire draft night is the lack of trades that have happened. I mean, you've got Sengun at 16, and then you've got Trey Murphy, who just went to New Orleans, I guess, at 17, which I like the fit there. A 6'9" guard who will be able to play 2 ways and run and gun with Zion. But I guess we can wait right here and see this OKC pick come in, see who else they're going to take a big swing on. And I think that'll probably be good for us. So I guess moving forward, it's going to be fun to see how these guys develop. They had a lot of talk tonight about, of course, the 84 draft, the 96 draft with Kobe, and then the 2003 draft. Those are probably the three greatest draft classes we've had. And so this one, though, is projected to be up there, and that's exciting. There's a lot of great talent here, and the NBA has had the most talent it's probably ever had since before the expansion in the 80s. So it's a great time to be an NBA basketball fan, and I'm looking forward to seeing what a lot of these guys can do. So as we continue to wait for this OKC pick, I guess we'll change gears and shout out women's rowing, the eights winning a gold medal while we were off in this hour watching the NBA draft. And then Penny's coming up here for the 100-meter freestyle. So looking forward to watching that. She's starting in 1 minute. So this OKC pick is in. I don't know if we're going to get to it.
Yeah, I'm reading a Woj bomb saying Trey Mann at the top of the board at this moment for this pick.
Okay, I like it. Similar to Terrence Mann, he provides good two-way action and is a off-ball creator, good cutter, solid pick for OKC there. That's a little bit more of a solid pick as opposed to the swings they may have taken earlier in the draft. My computer is starting to glitch on me. My other monitor's going. It might be a sign that it's time to wrap things up.
All right.
So good luck to Penny. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to this one. Max, I'm going to hand it off to you to take us out.
Go Penny, go. Sports NextDoor signing off.